Now basically it's about aromatic alcohol, phenol in this case, reacting with CHCl3 and KOH or NaOH. So when phenol is treated with, or it's refluxed with a mixture of chloroform and an alkali, KOH or NaOH, the product is OH, CHO ortho to each other, and it's para isomer. Now you know CHO being higher in the hierarchy of nomenclature, we might want to call it orthohydroxybenzaldehyde. This will be orthohydroxybenzaldehyde. And this you know is the para isomer. This is the para isomer, para hydroxybenzaldehyde. All right. So phenol treated with a mixture of chloroform and NaOH or KOH. Phenol treated with a mixture of chloroform and NaOH or KOH is going to give you a mixture of orthohydroxybenzaldehyde and the para isomer. Fair enough? Now this is called Reimer-Tiemann reaction. I guess you know this has a very popular name. Orthohydroxybenzaldehyde is also called salicylic. It's also called salicylic. So you get salicylic and the para isomer, where let's know that the orthoisomer would be formed more than the para isomer. So in this process, ortho is like the major product of the reaction. And you know, so many times in aromatic reactions or reactions in aromatic compounds, you'll see it's going to be either about introducing or removing a group from the ring. I repeat, it's going to be about introducing or removing a group from the ring. If you carefully see the process, you'll know that it's one method, it's one way of introducing CHO group into the ring. We'll know about more ways of introducing CHO group. But if you look at the process, Reimer-Tiemann will be way of introducing CHO group into the ring. See, yes or no? So that's also supposed to be, it could also be called as formylation. You know, by formylation I'll mean introduction of formyl group. By formylation I'll mean introduction of formyl group CHO of phenol. I can also call it formylation of phenol. We know, like most of the reactions in aromatic compounds, where you expect an electrophile to come and attack, and you know OH is ortho-para orienting, you will expect the electrophile to come and attack at the ortho-parent positions, and then you know correspondingly produce the ortho and para products. Fine. I haven't told you that ortho will be the major product here. So Reimer-Tiemann is formylation of phenol, treating phenol with a mixture of chloroform and NaOH or KOH, and getting salicylic and the para isomer. All right. Now before we know more about the process, let me also tell you that you know this process now doesn't have practical requirement. You have better ways of preparing salicylic. So industrially it's obsolete. There are better ways of preparing salicylic. It has more academic and you know research use. We'll want to know the mechanism and the process for academic and research reasons. But practically there are better ways of producing salicylic. It has lost its industrial application. There are better ways of getting salicylic. All right. Now, when we look more into more reactions of phenol, we'll see that generally reactions of phenol are done under alkaline conditions. We'll see that the reaction of phenol is generally done under, most of the reactions of phenol are done under alkaline conditions. Reimer-Tiemann, Kolbe-Schmidt, more reactions you'll see. Williamson ether synthesis is using this phenol. Reason being, when you treat phenol with OH minus, I repeat, most of the reactions of phenol are done under alkaline conditions. You'll be able to convert phenol to, you know, it's called phenoxide. You'll be able to convert phenol to phenoxide. Yes or no? Phenol is acting alkaline. I'm sorry, phenol is acting acidic, losing H plus to OH minus. Fine. Now most reactions of phenol will be done under alkaline conditions to convert phenol to phenoxide. Who will tell me why? Yes, in phenol You know there are two lone pairs that go and increase electron density at ortho and para positions. We all understand that. You know how it's ortho para orienting, how it's activating in nature. Yes or no? Whereas in phenoxide, there are three lone pairs. In phenoxide, there are three lone pairs. Between phenol and phenoxide, phenoxide has higher electron density over oxygen. You know, because of resonance, because of plus M effect of the OH group towards the ring. You know, this electron density goes into the ring, making ortho and para position electron rich, making it inviting for an electrophile to come and attack at ortho and para position. In the process, you know, the ring is supposed to be activated. The ring is supposed to be activated. The same reagents, CHCl3 and KOH, will not react with benzene. Benzene with these reagents will have no reaction. So certainly it's the OH group which has activated the aromatic ring, made it ortho-para orienting. Yes or no? And if you compare phenol and phenoxide, you'll agree that here oxygen had two lone pairs. O minus will mean here it has three lone pairs. Now when it has more electron density because there are three lone pairs, two things. First of all, you know, because it's electron rich, this ortho-para orientation or activation will be higher because it contains more electrons. The electron density is higher in phenoxide. Its ortho-para orienting nature will be higher. Phenoxide will be more orienting, more activating than phenol. Secondly, if you bother about the resonating structures, you would realize that when I'm drawing the resonating structure of phenol, you know, when I'm trying to put negative charge at ortho and para positions, I have to put a positive over oxygen. If you understand or not. If you bother about the resonating structures, where, you know, I'll be sending this lone pair to ortho and para positions in the resonating structures. Say for instance, you know, this happens to be another resonating structure. This double bond OH, now this becomes positive when this becomes negative. So, you know, in the resonating structures, I have to bear with this positive charge borne by oxygen, which, you know, is not a good sign. Oxygen positive is not very stable, whereas here, because oxygen is negative to begin with, even if this pair of electron goes at ortho and para positions, even in the course of activation, even while drawing different resonating structures, you don't have to compromise with the charge over oxygen. You know, oxygen remains neutral. Hope you're getting me. Then this comes at para position, and you know, that's how it's going to be ortho para oriented. So two things. First of all, here the electron density over oxygen is higher. Making it more activating towards the ring for the electrophile to come and attack. Secondly, in the resonating structures, I don't need to have any positive charge over oxygen. So, you know, even the resonating structures are more stable here, are more contributing here. Yes or no? So you would want phenol to be converted to phenoxide. You would want most of the reactions of phenol under alkaline conditions. Fine. But I repeat, phenol would have converted to phenoxide, which is more reactive than phenol. So the medium being alkaline, I'll believe that phenoxide and not phenol is the molecule attacked, and then we'll want to figure out the electrophile. Anyone who could tell me what's the electrophile here? Anyone in the class who could tell me? CCl2, dichlorocarbene. True. Let me rub this stuff so that, you know, we can go into the mechanism. Now, chloroform under alkaline conditions. Please be attentive. CHCl3 in presence of OH minus. What do you reckon? Is this hydrogen going to be acidic or not? Do you feel this hydrogen will be fairly acidic? Why? Minus I effect of 3 chlorine atoms. Yes, you know, in CHCl3 you see 3 chlorine atoms having minus I effect, making this hydrogen fairly acidic, Now this would be lost to OH minus, you know, it's going to go as H plus, so this comes over this carbon atom, and equilibria producing CCl3 minus, Now because this hydrogen is fairly acidic, because of minus I effect of chlorine atoms, it's an equilibria which is attained very quickly, and it's supposed to be a fast equilibria. It's supposed to be a fast equilibria. All right. Okay. So it all begins with OH minus attacking chloroform. This loses H plus, forming CCl3 minus, and this CCl3 minus is expected to lose Cl minus. It loses Cl minus. Now, as it loses Cl minus, if it loses Cl minus, you know, chlorine goes along with the pair of electrons. Chlorine goes along with the pair of electrons. So carbon becomes neutral now. Carbon becomes neutral now. Now this species, which is CCl2 with a pair of electrons and which is neutral, is called a carbene. Carbon having a pair of electrons which is neutral is called a carbene, and in this case it's called dichlorocarbene. It's called dichlorocarbene. Let's be very particular about it. Dichlorocarbene is going to be the effective electrophile in ribitymene. Dichlorocarbene will be the effective electrophile in ribitymene. Fair enough? Again, not a very strong electrophile, not strong enough to attack benzene, not strong enough to attack a normal aromatic ring. It's going to act as an electrophile. You know why it's going to act as an electrophile? Because the octet around carbon is not fulfilled. You got to agree with this. The octet around carbon is not fulfilled. So CCl2 with one pair of electrons, you know there are 6 electrons around carbon here. Octet is not complete. So no, it can act as an electrophile. It needs electron. It can act as an electrophile, but not strong enough to attack an aromatic ring. But we're not talking about a normal aromatic ring. We're talking about phenoxide, which is very activated, Now CCl2 acting as an electrophile, because the octet is not fulfilled. First of all, you know, it's important that you always remember the active species in the electrophile in ribitymene. It's very popular with examiners. They'll want to know you to know which is the electrophile in ribitymene. Note dichlorocarbene to begin with, and then it could attack at ortho and para positions of this aromatic activated aromatic ring. See if this comes here, you know, it's ortho para orienting. So this invites the electrophile, this invites the electrophile. Now when it invites this electrophile, see, this is the intermediate form. You have a hydrogen over this carbon, and then this CCl2 minus will now bear a negative charge. Yes or no? So it was neutral here, but it accepted a pair of electrons at the ortho position. So now it has a negative charge. Okay. So you started with dichlorocarbene as an electrophile. Dichlorocarbene plus Cl minus. We could prove that this is going to be the slowest step of the process. It starts with a fast equilibria, loss of water, you know, because it's fairly acidic. So it's a fast equilibria, and this is going to be the slowest step of ribitymene. The formation of dichlorocarbene will be the slowest step of ribitymene. We can prove that by increasing the concentration of Cl minus. You know, in the slowest step, whenever you increase the concentration of the product, the rate of the process is hampered. See, yes or no? So that's the easiest way to justify that it's the slowest step. A known fact in ribitymene, if you increase Cl minus, a known fact in ribitymene, if you increase Cl minus, the rate of the process is hampered. All right. So that proves that it's going to be the slowest step of the process, formation of dichlorocarbene. I hope it's fine till this point, which acts as an electrophile, and it could go at the ortho and para position of this activated ring. Now, this particular intermediate would get tautomerized. This particular intermediate will get tautomerized to generate again an aromatic ring. You know, this going from here, this falling down, this going above. This hydrogen will be lost, this hydrogen will be lost, so that the species becomes aromatic again. And between O minus and C minus, because C minus is more nucleophilic this time, will get hold of this H plus. So it gets tautomerized, and then you have O minus now, this hydrogen is caught by the C minus, and this pi bond here makes it aromatic again. I hope you all are following me. This goes with H plus, this pi bond comes in, making it aromatic again. It goes over oxygen head, so it's O minus now, and now this has become CHCl2, neutral because it got H plus now. Simple. You have a lot of OH minus because the medium is alkaline, and with OH minus, we know this, OH minus replacing Cl minus, OH minus replacing Cl minus. There are two Cl minus, so certainly it's going to give you an intermediate of this kind, CH, OH, OH. So yes or no? Both Cl minus replaced by two OH minus, and then one carbon can't have more than one OH, so it's going to lose water. Forming the anion of salicylaldehyde. It's going to become CHO here. The anion of salicylaldehyde, and this on slight acidification, will give you the neutral molecule. Fine. So this is a proposed mechanism. Again, let me tell you, this also happens to be one reaction mechanism which is very popular with examiners. So you'd want to know the mechanism and every step inside out. Phenol with a mixture of chloroform and alkali gives you salicylaldehyde and the para isomer. The mechanism proposed is, first of all, chloroform losing H plus to OH minus, forming CCl3 minus, then generating dichlorocarbene. In this lower step, dichlorocarbene acting as an electrophile could go and attack ortho as well as para position. By an ortho attack, I have been able to explain for salicylaldehyde. It could have gone and attacked at the para position, and that would have been how the para form is formed. Yes or no? So it acts as an electrophile, goes at ortho position. Small little things which you'll want to know. This hydrogen is used to tautomerize, and bring aromaticity back into the ring. That's how an intermediate of this kind matures to an intermediate of this kind with 2 chlorine, have 2 OH, take out water, and you get this on slight acidification gives you the neutral molecule. Alright, so you'll want to recall all these steps, and then with the help of some very common illustrations, some very and some particular cases, we'll be able to establish the mechanism. But this is how the basic mechanism is proposed, where the electrophile is dichlorocarbene, can attack at the ortho as well as para position, and that explains how salicylaldehyde and the para isomer is obtained. कोई problem नहीं आता? We are fine with this. Good for you. You also want to particularly relate to where and why I have put a negative sign, why I have made it neutral at some point of time. This negative, when this negative comes at ortho position in one of the resonating structures, that goes to this carbon, so it becomes negative here. It catches hold of H plus. I have made it neutral now, and finally, it would need slight acidification to become the neutral molecule. All right. I repeat, had it gone and attacked the para position, you would have got the para isomer of salicylaldehyde. One more phenomena attached or associated with this this mechanism is, it's a particular case where effectively we find H plus going out and then Cl minus going out. CHCl3 to CCl2 is about H plus going out and Cl minus going out. Generally, we are used to we are used to an elimination of this kind. Say you have chlorine or bromine here, in presence of OH minus, you want to take out H plus from this carbon, this goes out, this goes out. We are used to an elimination of this kind. we used an elimination of this kind. OH minus taking out H plus, a pi bond formed and Cl minus going out. And they all will belong to, if I call this alpha carbon and if I call it beta carbon, they'll all belong to the family of beta eliminations. Yes, I've spoken about it. They all have been beta eliminations, they have been 1,2 eliminations. They're popularly called beta eliminations or 1,2 eliminations. That's just rule Hoffman's elimination. In both the cases, I was taking out hydrogen from one carbon, I was looking for alpha carbon, I was looking for alpha hydrogen. The carbon having lesser number of hydrogen atoms used to lose hydrogen, but I was looking for the alpha carbon and alpha hydrogen. So hydrogen and halogen going from two different carbon atoms, they all were beta eliminations or 1,2 eliminations. Now, as a matter of fact, you look here, alkali or OH minus interacting with chloroform, you will find that hydrogen and chlorine are going from the same carbon atom. So very popularly, it's called, or it's supposed to be a step of or a kind of alpha elimination, also called 1,1 elimination. So with Reimer-Tiemann, you also associate this phenomena because it begins with 1,1 elimination over chloroform. Where both hydrogen and chlorine go from the same carbon atom. Fair enough? Fair enough? So with Reimer-Tiemann, you also associate alpha elimination or 1,1 elimination, generating the dichlorocarbon electrophile, which goes on and completes the process. Fine. Now our faith in the mechanism proposed is likely to increase with a couple of illustrations which are very particular with this reaction. I'll tell you about that. But before that, I hope you all are understanding it, and we'll get back to any questions, any doubts which you have. But let's move into, or let's talk about couple of variations, very interesting variations of Reimer-Tiemann. Hope we can move on. You can rub this. It could be looked upon, I repeat, as a way of introducing CHO group into the ring. So it's also called formylation of phenol. It's also called formylation of phenol. In the process of knowing more aromatic reactions, will actually be getting updated about how to bring in and remove the groups from the aromatic ring. Different reactions we'll be learning how to introduce and remove a group from a ring. Fine. Now this happens to be a very interesting variation of Reimer-Tiemann. See, you have phenol. I want to show the electron delocalization, so I'll stick to 3 pi bonds, and a CH3 here. Now what are these compounds called? OH and CH3 in the same carbon atom, in the same ring. I'm sorry, OH and CH3 in the same ring. These compounds are called? Yes? No? They're called? Not anisole. What are they called? Yes? Cresols. They're called cresols. In this case, it's paracresol. Paracresol. They're called cresols. Okay? Suppose I carry out Reimer-Tiemann over paracresol. So I treat it with CHCl3 and NaOH or KOH, heating effect. The products are, now this is as expected, ortho to OH, you have a CHO group introduced, ortho to OH you have a CHO group introduced as expected. Fine. The corresponding para isomer would be very different. Along with this expected product, you get this as another product, double bond O here, I believe, then CH3 and CHCl2. Now these are two products obtained. If you carry out Reimer-Tiemann over paracresol, I repeat, this is the expected product. Now the para isomer would be very different, very unexpected, and it's also called, it's called kind of abnormal Riemann-Tiemann product. It's called abnormal Riemann-Tiemann product. We'll see why. We know why. We'll see how it's formed now. Okay? So Riemann-Tiemann of Paracrystal is giving me the expected product as well as a very unusual product. Now we know about how this would have been formed. Fine. And we would believe that an intermediate of this kind, double bond O here, negative here, rather not an intermediate but this resonating structure of phenol, this resonating structure of phenoxide. This resonating structure of phenoxide would have attacked CCl2 or would have invited CCl2 at the ortho position. I'll need to draw a CH3 here. Fine. This resonating structure of phenoxide would have invited CCl2 at the ortho position and is responsible for the formation of the expected product. Yes or no? This resonating structure of phenoxide with ortho electron rich would have invited electrophile CCl2 dichlorocarbene and then it would mature to this expected product. Yes or no? And let's also agree that this coming down and this coming at para position giving you a structure of this kind, would be responsible for a para attack. All right. Now certainly when CCl2 comes attacks the para position, because this is another resonating structure, that's why phenoxide is also para orienting. Both ortho and para products form simultaneously. When CCl2 comes and attacks here, or when CCl2 is invited here, so this is the intermediate. You also buy this. This is CCl2 with a negative sign now. Okay? And because the para position is already occupied, please be attentive, because the para position is already occupied, we can't move to the next expected step. What you did is, with this interacting with CCl2, let's see it quickly. This was the expected intermediate. Now because the ortho position was free, I had a hydrogen which could get tautomerized. And bring aromaticity back to the ring. Say yes or no? Out here, I'm sorry, a CH3 here. Certainly, I'm just skipping it here. A CH3 out here. But when it comes to the ortho attack, because ortho position is not occupied, it's free. This hydrogen could be used in tautomerism. It could be tautomerized to make the ring aromatic again. Now that is missing at para position. Because a CH3 group is there, that hydrogen is missing. The ring cannot be made aromatic again. See, yes or no? And because the ring cannot be made aromatic again, the next step doesn't mature. Hey, this would have made the ring aromatic again, making it CHCl2, and then it would have exchanged Cl minus with OH minus and given you the expected product. But out here, because it doesn't have that hydrogen, because the para position is occupied, it doesn't mature to the next step. And it can't stay like an uncharged, it can't stay like a charged species, because eventually it has to become neutral. So what it does is, it just takes H plus from the solvent. It takes H plus from the solvent generally and gives you this unexpected product. Which is neither the Riemann-Tiemann product